again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with a continuation of the Tesselated Hearts Filet blanket, and we are on row 20. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so for row 20, of course, we're going to start off in this case with a space, which means we need a chaining up of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Turn the work. And the reason why I say, of course, we need a space is because we need to layer 1 on top of here. And we're going to keep on in the same fashion. I'll show you. So after chaining up 3, double crochet past this space and into this first double crochet here. When you're chaining up 3, that is a double crochet and a chain 1 space. And we need 14 more double crochets for a total of 15. And when we reach the space in the middle, just double crochet right into that space. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Chain 1, skip that chain space going into the next with a double, and 14 more for a total of 15. And we're going to do that all the way across. And so basically it's creating a space, going over a space, creating a space, going over a space for the whole row. So let's get to it. So I got my 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is in the space. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Chain 1, skipping that space, going into the next, and 14 more for a total of 15. Okay, so we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 goes into the space. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, chain 1, skipping that chain, going into the next, either the second from the bottom or the second from the side, either or. And so just go underneath both loops of the V. There you go. Nice and pretty and clean. All right, so that is the end of row 20. So we're just basically going straight up with the exception of the ones in the middle. All right, be right back for row 21. All right, now for row 21 is actually the exact same thing as row 20. So I'm going to start you off by chaining up 3, 1, 2, 3, turning the work, and where you have an eyelet, little fillet eyelet here, you're going to be creating an eyelet. Otherwise, it's all solid stitching. All right, so you got your chaining up a 3, which counts as your double, and your chain 1. Double crochet into that first double there. And then just when you see a double, do a double. And when you see a chain space, you make a chain space. So it's the exact same thing, and you don't have to worry about counting or anything like that because you're just following suit. 15 double crochets on top of the 15 that you already did, and chain spaces on top of the ones that you already did. It's the exact same thing. See, we're just sort of scooting right on over because we have existing stitches already to work with. So it's a space, 15 doubles, a space, 15 doubles, a space, 15 doubles, ending with a space. So, got a space. So, chain 1, go over the space, going into the next double with a double, and so on and so forth as you work your way across. All right, so keep on keeping on in this fashion. So doubles across, create a space, doubles across, and then when you reach this point, again, do a double crochet in this stitch right here, and then do a chain 1, and do your final last double crochet into this second chain from the bottom. All right, right into there. Okay, so I will meet back up with you for row 22. Okay, row 22. Now, just to be sure that we're on the same page, at the end of row 21, your piece should look something like this, where you have 3 eyelets stacked on top of each other, and then 2 rows that are unscathed by further holes in the middle of those groupings. All right, so for row 22, going to begin by chaining up 2, which is going to count as our first double. Turn the work. And going to work the next double into the chain space here. And then 1 more double into that first double for a total of 3. Okay, so we got our 3 doubles. Then chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and 10 more for a total of 11 doubles. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, so we've got grouping of 3, space, 11. So now we need another space. Chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next with a stitch, and 2 more for a total of 3. So double crochet into the space and into the next stitch. So for this row, it's 3, 11, 3, 11, 3, 11, 3, 11, 3, 11, 3, however many times for whatever your project width is. Just back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, but ending on 3. So let's continue on. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, going to the next, and 10 more for a total of 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next, and 2 more stitches for your total of 3. So into the space, and into the next stitch. So got the grouping of 3, chain 1, skip a stitch, going to the next, and 10 more for a total of 11. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next, into the chain space, and the second chain from the bottom for a total of 3 doubles at the end. There you go. All right. So now these are going to be our upside down hearts. And as you can see, they have the 2 sort of lobes here, and it's going to start tapering upwards. And this right here is going to be the beginning of a new heart. Yeah. All right. So onwards and upwards. Let's go. Okay. Row 23. So row 23, it's going to start with a 5, end with a 5, and 7's in the middle. So start by chaining up 2 and turn your work. And we're going to skip this first stitch because that's the edge. So going into this next one for our second stitch, 3 more for a total of 5. So that's 3 into the space. It's 4 and 5. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next, and 6 more for a total of 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, after chaining 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and 6 more for a total of 7. So we've got 1 into the space, makes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goes into the space, and 7. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going to the next, and 6 more for a total of 7. But I have to get that first one, don't I? So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, going to that next one. So that's 1, 2 goes into the space, 3, 4, 5, 6 goes into the space, and 7. Chain 1, skip a space, going to the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on. 6 and 7. Chain 1. And we are just about at the end. So after chaining 1, skip that stitch, going to the next, and 4 more for a total of 5. It's 5 at either end, like I said at the beginning, with 7s in the middle. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is into that last chain 2, that last double crochet. Da-dum! Okay, and that is the end of row 23. Okay, let's keep going. Row 24, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. This time it's going to be starting and ending with groups of 7. In the middle, it's 3, 11, 3, 11, 3, 11, 3, or what have you. Depends on how many repetitions you got going on here, but it begins with 7. So let's start with a chaining up of 2. Turn the work. Start with our 7 because it builds out the 5. So skipping this first one, going to this next one. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next, and 2 more for a total of 3. So that's 2 and 3. Okay. Chain 1. Whoa. Chain 1. Skip a stitch, going to the next, and 10 more for a total of 11. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, scooch, chain 1, skip a stitch going to the next, and 2 more for a total of 3. Okay, got my 3, chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and 10 more for a total of 11. So that's 1, into the space makes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 into the space, and 11 into that next stitch. Chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and 2 more for a total of 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and 6 more for a total of 7. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 at the very end here. Here we go. Voila. It's a thing of beauty. All right, onwards to row 25. All right, so for rows 25 and for row 26, it's going to be the exact same row twice over. All right, so we're going to do the first one together. So first things first, chain 2, turn the work, get yourself situated. Okay, so for row 25 and 26, you're going to start with 9, a grouping of 9, and then groupings of 15, and then a grouping of 9 at the end. So I'm going to start with a chaining of 2, skip this first stitch, going into the next, and 7 more for a total of 9. And for row 26, it's basically you're just following suit with what you already did. So it's not difficult at all. So we've got 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 into the space, and 9. Okay, create a space, chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next. Okay, see it comes to a nice point there. All right, 14 more for a total of 15. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 into that space, and 15. There we go. Okay. Scoot your work. Okay, so I got my 15. chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and then 14 more for the total of 15, because this is my first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in the space, and 15. Chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and because we've reached the end, it's going to be 8 more for a total of 9. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, now, so like I said, row 26 is going to be the exact same thing as row 25. You would chain up 2, do your doubles across, chain 1 for the space, do your doubles across, chain 1 for the space, do your doubles across, so on and so forth. Nothing's changed. Now, something to keep in mind, okay, is if you want your blanket to have sort of a converging of opposites, where there's no real right side way up, which is actually kind of how I prefer it. You can have the end of your blanket end with upside down hearts so that you have hearts going this way, and on the other side, hearts going this way. So they're sort of coming together, if you will, where there's no upside, downside, depends on how you look at it, really. But this is how actually I decided to end my blanket. You can keep going, by all means, until the end of this full repeat, or you could end on a row 25. That's up to you. But I just wanted to make that, as an option open to you, if that is something that you would prefer. That being said, we need to keep going with this full repeat. So that being said, I'm going to do row 26 off camera, and I'll meet back up with you for row 27. Okay, be right back. Okay, row 27. Row 27, we're going to start with a space. So I'm going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to act as our double crochet and our chain 1 space. Skipping this first stitch and this next one, going into that third one with a double, and 6 more for a total of 7. This row is all about the groups of 7. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip that space, going to the next with a double, and 6 more for a total of 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch going into the next, and 6 more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. See, what we're doing is this center hole, the center space, is like this center space right here in between the arches, which we haven't gotten up to the arches yet, but we're starting that foundation. So let's keep on keeping on. Okay. Chain 1. Skip that space. Going into the next. And 6 more for the 7. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1. Skip a stitch going into the next, and 6 more. So that's 2, 3, 4. Got snagged. That's 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1. Skip that space going into the next stitch, and 6 more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1. Skip this stitch going into the very last stitch for the space at the edge. Da, 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 da. There you go. All right, so that concludes row 27. So we're going to be creating, like I said, creating new hearts. And that's that center divot there. Okay, let's keep going. Row 28. Row 28 is a row of 3 groupings. Or shall I say groupings of 3, excuse me. So start by chaining up 2. That's going to count as our first double. And then the next double is going to be into that space. And 1 more for a grouping of 3. And that is how we're going to work this row. So chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next 3. Emma, you can do it. There we go. Scooch, scooch, scooch. There we go. Chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next 3. Chain 1, skip a stitch, next 3. Okay, chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next 3. Chain 1, skip 1, 3 doubles. 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 Okay, so I did the 1, and the second one goes into the space, and then the third one into that second chain. There we go. La-dum. All right. So now you can see how it's creating those arches for the top of the heart. All right, let's keep going. Okay, row 29. Okay, so for 29, it's going to be beginning and ending with groupings of 5. In the middle, groupings of 7. So let's get to it. So chain up 2, turn the work, skipping this first stitch, going into the next, and 3 more for a total of 5. So that's 3 and 4 and 5. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next, and 6 more for a total of 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next, and 6 more for the 7. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. chain 1, skip a stitch, going into the next, and 6 more. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1, and then 5 at the end. So we're after the chaining of 1, skip this one, going to the next. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one at the very end. There we go. Da-da-da-dum. Okay, and that is the end of row 29. My goodness. We've come a long way. Well, just one more for today. All right, and we shall continue. Okay, row 30. Last but not least for this video, at any rate. I'm going to have one more video after this to go, though. Like I said, I want to be thorough for you guys. So, for row 30, of course, we're going to start up with a chaining up of 2 for our first double. Turn the work. Okay, so for this row, it's a grouping of 13, then a bunch of 15s, and then ending on a 5. So let's start with the 13. We've already got 1, and then skipping this first stitch, going to that next one, which will make 2. And, woo, hello, 3, 4, 5, 6 goes into the space, 7, 8, 9. Did I get that right? Yes, I did. Okay. 10, 11, 12, and my yarn is being obstinate. Sorry. There we go. Should be good. And 13, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 13. Perfect. Okay, onwards. Okay, chain 1, going over this space, going into that next stitch. And now groupings of 15 until we reach about the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why? Why? Why do you do this to me? The yarn is telling me that it will not be tamed. Okay, so that was 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, 8 goes into the space. And then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Chain 1. Skip that space, going to the next stitch, and then 14 more for a total of 15. So we've got 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 goes into the space. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so chain 1, skip that space, going to the next stitch, and 4 more for a total of 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and last but not least, here we go. Okie dokie. So at this point, your piece should look something like this. So as you can see, again, this will be an upside down heart. This is part of a right side up heart, and this will be an upside down heart, just like this over here. So that being said, that's why I'm being pretty thorough as far as the pattern is concerned, because since it is tessellated and they shift and they're staggered and it's not symmetrical, that is why I'm being very thorough. I don't want to be redundant. I don't want to be boring, but I do want to be thorough because I know it can be a little daunting, especially with a repeat this much into it. At any rate, that being said, that concludes this part of the Tesselated Hearts Filet Blanket tutorial. Thank you so very much for joining me. I hope you're enjoying the series. And of course, if you are, give a little thumbs up button down below. You know I appreciate your appreciation. And do stay tuned because I'm going to keep at it for another part of this. And yeah, we will get through this, I promise. And listen, until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.